many fronts on this war. Speaker Johnson knows all about it. He joins us now. Mr. Speaker, you saw Trey's recap of what happened over the weekend. We should also tell everybody the Abraham Lincoln Strike Group and the Theodore Roosevelt Strike Group, aircraft carrier groups, are still in the area. And we also have a guided missile submarine still in the area, which could be lethal. It's a lot of assets. Do you agree with it?
I do. We have to have a strong show of force. We have to let the world know, and certainly our adversaries, Iran and all of its proxies, understand that America will stand with Israel. We'll defend Israel, the most stable, the only democracy in the Middle East there, the most stable one, our close ally, and a critically important partner for us. This is not a game. Because we dithered for so long, and because Biden and Harris did not show decisive action. They withheld weapon systems and all the rest. That's what's gotten us into this mess. That has helped escalate it. So we've got to stand strong now. It's overdue.
Ceasefire talks are continuing. What are the terms in which you think it would be a good move? My fear is if Hamas survives, we just put off the next attack. For the Palestinian people to have a shot at any type of freedom, you got to get rid of Hamas. How do you do that if you stop now?
Yet you don't. And remember, these negotiations that they're talking about are between a nation, Israel, and a terrorist organization. So the deference should go to the nation, of course. We trust Israel. We defer to them on what is enough. But they understand that they're facing existential threats to their very existence as a nation, as a state. And this is serious business. They cannot let up now. They have to eliminate the threat. And we got to trust them that they know when that time comes.
I mean, just take a look at Mr. Speaker. Take a look at Kamala Harris's record, real record, when it comes to foreign policy and when it comes to law and order. For example, in 2004, she declined to pursue the death penalty against a confessed gang member who murdered a San Francisco police officer. 2019, pushed to overhaul the criminal justice system, including eliminating cash bail. 2020, suggested donating to a bail fund for BLM rioters. So that's really what she's about. What about Tim Walz? What did you discover when you went to Minneapolis yourself to see how that city's recovered 3 years after the George Floyd riots?
Yeah, I went to the site, the epicenter, where it all began, May, June of 2020, where those riots began. And Tim Walz was the governor. He allowed Minnesota to burn. He allowed Minneapolis to burn. He sat on his hands while that happened and gave sympathy, really, to the rioters. You know, when he ran for governor last time in that state, in Minnesota, they dubbed him the godfather of crime and lawlessness, because what happened in Minnesota and Minneapolis there then spread to other cities, as we know, around the country and even around the globe. The lawlessness that followed, the chaos that followed, was originally he was the architect of. And so the point is here, you have to be very sober-minded when you go into that ballot box. Safety and security are number one issues to people around this country. They don't feel safe. They don't feel stable right now. And if you put Kamala Harris and Tim Walz in charge, your family is not safe. Your children are not safe when they walk on the streets in the daytime. You have to take that into account.
All right, the other thing to point out, too, they've lost 1,700 cops in the area. If you go to a Timberwolves game, everything's hollowed out, still burnt out. So did you find out that the recovery's been ridiculously slow?
Yes. In fact, we stood and held a press conference in front of the 3rd precinct, the police precinct, that burned. It still is surrounded by a gate and concrete barricades. They've not rebuilt. Over 1,500 buildings in Minneapolis were allowed to be either destroyed or significantly damaged, and many family businesses were run out of town. They are not on the side of the American people, of law-abiding citizens, of small business owners. They're on the side of the criminals, and they have a record as long as my arm to prove that. We've got to make sure the American people understand what this is about.
Mr. Speaker, I do get the sense that nobody's running this country. I know we have a lame duck president now, reluctantly for him. He goes to California, then he goes back to the beach. We have a world on fire right now. We have economic things that's got to be addressed. We have a border that now both sides agree needs to be fixed. Where is he?
That's a great question. I mean, Joe Biden has been checked out for a long time, and Kamala Harris knew it the entire time. She was one of the people, remember, that they bragged about was the last one to leave the room when major decisions were made, as if Joe Biden was making them. She is responsible. She carries the burden of that, and that's her record. And we've got to understand, too, whether you're talking about domestic affairs or foreign affairs. We were talking about the hot wars going on around the globe. The only person that our adversaries fear less than Joe Biden is Kamala Harris. Imagine her as the commander-in-chief of the U.S. military in these dangerous times. This is the most dangerous time since World War II, Brian. We cannot afford to do that. You've got to have Donald Trump in the White House. He's the one they fear and respect.
Mr. Speaker, I don't know if you have a monitor there, but look at the still picture that they put out. They have to be embarrassed that nobody's running the office of the White House. They put out a picture, a generic shot of them working together when one is on the beach and the other's on the campaign trail. Come on.
They have no shame. You saw that on display at the Democrat National Convention. They're engaging in fantasy over fact. We've got to make sure people understand this is not, you can't make an emotional decision here. You have got to make a decision based on the record and not the rhetoric. They're saying things that are patently untrue. They're gaslighting the American people, and they expect that, I guess, that the people are not intelligent enough to figure this out. This is for all the marbles. This is the most important election of our lifetimes, no question. And everybody understands that around the country. Brian, I've been to 191 cities in 38 states in the last 8 months. It doesn't matter where I am, north, south, east, west. People get it. They're fed up, and I think they're going to make the right decision when they go into the election booth.
And we know it's going to be close, and it's really got to be decided in the next 70 days. The other thing that really upsets me is that gone from the headlines, but not from the consciousness, is the Donald Trump assassination investigation. And word is frustration from Congress of people that want answers and feel the FBI is slow walking this whole thing. We know the Congressional Investigation Committee is going to Butler, led by, I think, Congressman Johnson, who's had in the area. What are you looking for, and how hamstrung are you if the FBI won't offer their help?
Yeah, Ron Johnson in the Senate was putting some things out yesterday. We have individual members. Our task force is doing extraordinary work. They have been working around the clock since we named that several weeks ago. And Mike Kelly is chairing that because he's from Butler, Pennsylvania,
Mike Kelly,
a seasoned, long member of Congress. Yeah, and he's doing a great job on that. There'll be some public comments today, a press conference. But they've been digging in, getting the answers, and requesting documents. They have been slow-walked. That's the concern. So we're pressing go. We got to get the answers to the American people, and I'm confident our task force will get that done.
We know nothing about this guy. I know it's not exactly the Lee Harvey Oswald investigation, but why does he have encrypted apps? What was he practicing? Who was he communicating to? Why are we still having trouble getting through his phone? These are some of the things that the curiosity has just left much in the media, and it's just maddening to me. On a separate note, no one has to tell you 3 years to the day into the explosion at Abbey Gate. We lost 13 great servicemen and women. Many more were wounded. Many Afghans were killed. And we knew this was all coming. The investigation's been frustrating because the president doesn't want to hear it, won't comment on it. You will. What action are you taking?
Well, we're doing everything that we can, and in Congress we have a duty to honor the selfless sacrifice and the greatest price that was paid by those 13 brave servicemen and women. You had husbands and brothers and sisters and fathers in that group, great Americans. What we're going to do is issue for them the Congressional Gold Medal to their families. It's the highest honor that Congress can pay to civilians or to military personnel, to any group, and we're going to do that. We have to make sure that the American people know that sacrifice. It was the greatest foreign policy blunder of our lifetimes. It led to a series of other events that emboldened our adversaries around the world and allowed the Taliban to take back over, and we effectively sacrificed 20 years of our effort and servicemen and women who served there. It was a terrible thing, but Congress is going to make it right as best as we can and honor them in that very important way.
Mr. Speaker, are you announcing this for the first time right now?
Yes. We're making that announcement, and I'm delighted to do it. It's overdue. It's been 3 years, as you noted, and their families are still suffering. The American people owe them a debt of gratitude that can never be fully paid. But we're going to do everything we can in a bipartisan way, bicameral way, to give that honor to those families. They well deserve it.
Have Democrats expressed to you they'll back you on this?
I'm sure that they will. I can't imagine anybody would vote against that, but they will hold back some of their opinions, I think. I think we all recognize that when someone puts on the uniform and takes their life in jeopardy and pays that ultimate price, they deserve that great award, regardless of how terrible the decision was by the commander-in-chief to put them in that situation. And
you guys will be back to work in a week, back in Washington. We'll see what can be done, and then the sprint to November. Thanks, Mr. Speaker. Appreciate it.
Thank you, my friend. God bless.